Now, if you're a regular Majestic Aquariums customer, particularly one if we service your aquarium, I'm going to start a new service, which is a quarantine hire service. Because one thing that's really been upsetting me lately is that I'll be looking after someone's aquarium and the aquarium's going really nicely. And let's say it's a reef aquarium where we're running the salinity at about 0.025. And the fish are very happy and the corals are very happy and everything's going really well. And then someone wants to buy new fish. And regardless of whether they buy it from me or anyone else, the fish always come in a lower salinity. Now, our suppliers often run their salinity as low as 0.016, 0.017, 0.018. And then we have to acclimatize them up into our systems. We tend to run 0.020, 0.021, 0.022. And we do have the ability to medicate, which a reef tank doesn't. And then the fish are then expected within a short period of time to end up in your tank, and you're probably running a salinity of 0.025, maybe 0.026. And the fish can't handle that sort of jump. Basically, regardless of how well you acclimatize your fish, they can handle going up in salinity a couple of degrees a day. So 0.020 to 0.022, something in that vicinity. Because fish cannot handle going up in salinity. Because if they go up in salinity, they're going to increase osmotic pressure, which means that the fish's energy is all going to go urgently into the osmoregulation system, and that allows the immune system to suffer because the energy comes out of the immune system because it's the most expendable system temporarily. And then all the pathogens, like the parasites, they love the higher salinity. So the higher salinity encourages the parasites and it disfavors the fish. Now, going down is the exact opposite. If you go down in salinity, you're easing osmotic pressure, which means there's less energy going to the osmoregulation system, which balances the salt within the environment and the fish themselves. Because the salinity of a fish is about half seawater. So therefore, they use a lot of energy to defend themselves against the salt in their own environment. Now, if we go down in salinity, the fish are totally fine. And the parasites hate it. And that's exactly why a lot of the importers all bring the fish in low salinity. They'll catch the fish out of high salinity, throw them in low salinity. They will get a boost to the immune system of the fish, and the pathogens hate it. So therefore, they tend to get less issues in their system. But then, if they sell the fish to you, and you put them straight into high salinity, then bingo, you get the problem. Now, what some people will do is drop the salinity of their main display tank. Now, if you drop it very briefly, you introduce the fish, and then you raise it almost instantly to the tune of about 2 degrees a day. So then within a week, the whole process is finished. In general, the tank's totally fine. But it's really common that people will drop the salinity in their tank to prepare for the fish, or drop the salinity in the tank because they've had a problem with their fish. Because very regularly, I'll have a problem with the fish, drop the salinity in the tank, the fish have become fine. Because that extra boost in the immune system, due to the ease of osmotic pressure, and the parasites hating the fresher water, is often enough to fix basic white spot problems or similar. But then, when the people have lowered their salinity, a really common problem is they just forget to raise it again. And then within weeks, their corals start dying. So you jump right out of the fire and into the frying pan because you've had a tank that's been running really great. Then you've gone and put some fish in. You've put them into high salinity. The fish end up with white spots, so you drop the salinity. You fix a white spot in the fish. Then your corals start to die. Now, this can all be avoided with a quarantine tank. Now, I've had a real onslaught lately trying to encourage the people buy a quarantine tank. Had a conversation with the guy the other day. His tank's worth tens of thousands of dollars. He's got thousands of dollars worth of fish in the tank. I said to him, look, man, you really need a quarantine tank. What you're doing is risky. I don't care if you're buying the fish from me or anyone else. You're risking these thousands of dollars worth of fish due to salinity change, low immune system due to the process of being collected, and all the rest of it. You just want to put them in the quarantine tank, settle them into the quarantine tank. The quarantine tank can have a low salinity, then you can slowly bring it up. Then when the salinity, pH and temperature is right, and you've monitored the fish for a month, you've noticed that it's feeding, you're happy with the fish, it's not showing any sign of anything. If it is, you can medicate very easily and cheaply in the quarantine tank. And then, bungo, you can put it into the main display tank, and the chance of you having a problem is drastically reduced. And I said to him, look, for the sake of a few $100, I can set you up a quarantine tank and we can minimize your risk. He turned around and said, I don't have room for a quarantine tank. I said, dude, you've got 13 rooms in your house. And I pointed in the room we were standing at least 6 places that I would have suggested is adequate to place a quarantine tank. And then he's like, oh, what am I going to do with the quarantine tank after I've quarantined the fish? I said, I don't know, go put it in one of your 13 rooms. He's like, no, I don't want one of those hanging around. And then I said to him, look, what if I just hired you a quarantine tank and then at the end I'll come and take it away? And he said, oh, that sounds cool. As long as I don't get stuck with a quarantine tank. People are just absolutely paranoid about having anything in their house they don't want anymore. Anyway, so just put a little note on the bottom of this video. Do you think that hiring a quarantine tank is a good idea? Because what I'm thinking about doing, I don't know pricing or anything yet. I'm going to have to try it a few times. But let's say tanks like this leadies are perfect. For little fish, we'd do a leady 40. For bigger fish, we'd do a leady 60. For anything slightly decent size, we'd do like a leady 80. Now, these are great little tanks because they come with a heater, a filter, a light. You can just put a bit of conduit pipe or something in there for the fish to hide in, or a basic plastic decoration or something where they can get a little bit of refuge. It's perfect just to allow them to be monitored before slowly raising the salinity and putting them into the main tank without jeopardizing any of the fish or coral by playing around with the salinity. So what I'm thinking is I can offer you a stand if you need one. I can hire you the tank. Basically, what I'm thinking is that you pay for the tank. Then when you come back, there'll be a fee for hiring the tank, and then the balance will be given to you as a credit for you to spend on stuff such as more fish, such as food, or any more corals or anything you want to put in your tank. So anyway, if you see any advantages, disadvantages, or got any tips or hints for me for trying this particular program, then put a little note on the bottom of this video. Hopefully I'll get to refine this program to the point where it is economical for me to do, and it is enticing enough to actually encourage and allow people to actually use a quarantine tank. Anyway, I'd absolutely love your feedback. We're also looking at having 2 main services. Service 1 is that we hire you the quarantine tank. If you never come back, that's okay. You just bought the quarantine tank. If you do come back, a credit for the balance, which has been agreed, will be placed on your file, and you can give us a quarantine tank back, and you can spend that money on whatever you want, including more fish or coral or whatever you want to do. And the other level of service that we're going to offer is that once a week, assuming that you live relatively close to Majestic Aquarium's Tarrant Point, for a affordable fee, we will do it for you. So we will come, we will set the quarantine tank up in your house, we will set up the water with a slower salinity, we will introduce some pre-cured filter material, we will introduce your fish. Then once a week we'll come, we'll monitor your fish, test all your water, slowly raise your salinity. So after a 4-week period, if all goes well, we will then introduce the fish to your aquarium, and we will then take away the quarantine tank. Now, obviously, this comes with some cost, but when you look at the options, I think that it's really worth it, because from time to time, I see people with tanks worth tens of thousands of dollars. They introduce fish. The fish have not been quarantined. They're going into compromised salt levels, and then they end up with a white spot disease. It completely freaks them out for several weeks of their life while they get it back under control again. In the meantime, they've probably lost more fish than it would have cost to buy the bloody quarantine tank. Anyway, give us your feedback, give us your thoughts. Hope to hear from you soon. And if you're local to Majestic Aquariums Tarrant Point, hit us up and see what we can work out for you. Is hiring a quarantine tank a way forward to encourage that people quarantine their fish?